If you listen to second negative, you will no longer have paramedics, and you will no longer have anyone employed in the entire United States. On the first argument, clearly it is a repugnant policy. If you carry it to its logical extreme, you will no longer have paramedics. The obvious disadvantage is that you can no longer watch emergency, but besides that, you can no longer save lives. I would argue, secondly, though, we offer you, if nothing else, a comparative advantage, simply because there are a few lives that can be saved. When he talks about the shortages of doctors, that's fantastic, because now you have to have the satellites to get long-range communications between the paramedic and the doctor that would be, lots of miles away. Secondly, though, when he talks about malpractice, I would argue he would be more liable if he would deny a person out there dying any help. That would be more liable for malpractice. On the facility shortages, though, one, very critically, we prove that the technology is going to be improved and that productivity that will be improved. To that extent, shortages can be eliminated. Now, his next argument is the overemphasis. One, there is a peace treaty right now. U.S. and Soviet progress in space in 1978. It is the United States policy that our military flights are non-aggressive. The Soviet Union is also a party to this treaty, the ban of weapons of mass destruction in space. But secondly, whether satellites are going to help everyone. They are up there for everyone's benefit. To that extent, they will not want to shoot them down. But I would argue, thirdly, when he's talking about the solar-powered satellites, he must prove that the solar-powered satellites are going to be there. He must prove that companies are going to be investing in solar-powered satellites per se. In terms of the unemployment being fine, one, it's a repugnant policy. It is an absurd position. If you carry the negative argument to its logical extreme, the result is a system in which you say do everything you can to torpedo the economy in order to save more lives. This is clearly a ridiculous policy. Argue secondly, though, when you increase productivity with the affirmative, you also have, with more technological advances, you increase productivity, you also have less work. He now has to work less to gain the same amount. To that extent, you will have less overwork, less stress, less deaths. Turn it around, apply the deaths to the status quo. Argue thirdly, though, he never gives you a quantitative impact. We don't know how many people will die if you adopt the affirmative plan, but we do know that 35,000 people will be driven from their homes and that several million are unemployed if you do not. In terms of the observation that the first negative speaker gives you, one, he talks about O'Neill. O'Neill is clearly cracked. He presents that in his own cross-examination. Secondly, though, when Rockwell talks about full-scale space industrialization, they're talking about us. He must prove that that the O'Neill stuff applies to us, and that indeed it's going to take that much money. But thirdly, what difference does it make if it does take money? He doesn't tell you that we cannot get the money. He does not tell you why it would be bad to have all that money used. Argue on the vested interest thing. One, the irrationality clearly does not apply to Rockwell. They are in it for the profit motive. Their study will be correct because it needs to be correct in order for them to make money. On terms, is that out of time? Already? Okay, fine. The rest of it is clearly not denied. To that extent, you would pull it through in second affirmative.